Hi, welcome to the tiny Indonesian island of Gili Meno. And whilst looking for a mid-range hotel to stay at, I was a little bit overwhelmed by choice really. The standard seems really high here on the island and in general in Indonesia. Nevertheless, a decision was made and I decided to stay at the property known as Gili Meno Escape. Stick with this video and I'll show you what a 3-star property is like here in Indonesia and also give you a tour of the entire island. On arrival at Gili Meno Escape, you enter a kind of open plan dining / reception area which looks straight out over to the pool. The pool being the main feature of the hotel, and I actually paid a little bit extra to stay in one of these poolside villas. Pool and landscaping around it is very nice. The long grass, the frangipani trees and other tropical plants makes it feel very lush and relaxed. Relax is the key word for my time here at Gili Meno Escapes, and for the most part it felt like I had the entire place to myself really. Hardly anyone around, very quiet, exactly what you want from this kind of island stay. The staff at the hotel were fantastic. At check-in we were given welcome drinks whilst the luggage was taken to the room, and when it came time to be escorted to the room, one of the staff members took my backpack for me. Just one of those small actions that really sets the tone of service. Amazing really when you think how much this room cost. I rented a bike from the hotel, and apart from a few tricky sandy paths, it really is the best way to explore the island with there being no cars or motorbikes. Gili Meno is tiny though, so even if you're walking, you're never really too far from your destination. For context, Gili Meno is the smallest of the 3 Gili Islands, with there only being around 500 residents, and it's known for being the quietest and most untouched of the 3. I use the bike every day, and this particular morning we're starting over on the east side for sunrise, where you get this incredible view looking out over to Lombok with the mountains in the distance. And because the island is so quiet, when getting up this early, apart from the odd fishermen, you really do have the place to yourself. And that's something I kept noticing, and you're probably going to get very bored of me saying that Gili Meno is quiet, relaxed and touched, and all these other words used to sell the Gili Islands. Heading further around the island, you pass the ferry terminal where, unless you somehow swam to the island, you'll be arriving and leaving. And if you're curious to know how to get to the Gili Islands, well, I have a guide for you that's linked in the description, as well as many other Gili related articles on my website. So around the ferry terminal area there's a few restaurants, the only cash machine on the island and a small supermarket. And even though I arrived well before opening time, they still let me grab a drink. Then continuing south, you start to hit long stretches of empty beaches. Eventually you'll reach the turtle sanctuary, one of the few activities actually on land at the island, where they raise baby turtles and then release them back into the wild. Giving a small donation, you too can also have the pleasure of liberating a turtle. As you continue round to the southern tip of the island, this is where things, believe it or not, get really quiet. The beach I filmed the intro on, I must have been there well over an hour and didn't see a single person pass by. Continuing round to the west side, you start to get views across the Gili T, which is basically the complete opposite of Gili Meno. That's the party island with bars, nightlife and backpackers. And if you take the ferry from Bali, which stops at all the islands, you can pretty quickly tell who's getting off at which. Putting back through the central part of the island, this is where you reach peak cycling. The paths here are superb. They've all recently been resurfaced, I believe from dirt tracks to now tarmac and paved paths. Back at the hotel, the room itself was very nicely done. Quite dark, but in a good way, especially for keeping things cool. The wood finishes throughout the room was of a very high quality, and everything had a beach theme, which obviously you would expect for a hotel on an island. It'd be strange if it had a Harry Potter theme or something else. And of course you got all the usual stuff: a safe, mini fridge, TV, open wardrobes and a very comfortable bed. The only downside, the air conditioning wasn't quite as strong enough as I would have liked sometimes, especially when being out in the heat all day. It was super hot during my stay here, so I can kind of empathise with how difficult it would be to keep these villas cool. Now the bathroom, that was an experience. It was basically outside, no roof, no air conditioning, and easily the hottest bathroom I've ever been in. But despite the ridiculous temperature in there, I quite liked it. You could literally shower under the stars at night, which is something you don't get in every hotel. And the humidity and the heat in the bathroom, it kind of reminded me of the experience you have when, say for example, you're out in Kuala Lumpur or Singapore and you're having a walk on a humid day with a friend. You just can't help but comment every 5 minutes just how hot and humid it is. That was me with this bathroom. Every time entering, I had to announce, bloody hell, it's humid in here. Back in the room, one thing I always appreciate are plug sockets either side of the bed. I really don't know who would design a hotel room without them. Maybe a psychopath. Not far from the hotel, there's a small village area in the centre of the island where there's a little convenience store, fully air conditioned, great for picking up snacks and drinks. And what's interesting is that although Bali is predominantly Hindu, the Gili Islands do have a bit more of a mix, with there being more of a Muslim community. Eventually, whichever way you go, all paths lead to the coast. Now we're on the northwest side and this is where you get to see the sunset. There's a few beach bars and restaurants here, but again, nothing ever really feels too busy. Now we've been around the whole island, let's have a bit of a summary. My thoughts on Gili Meno. The travel here was a bit of a slog, to be honest. Flying to Singapore, then missing my connecting flight and having to stick around Changi Airport, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's a fantastic airport. But then flying on to Bali and getting a taxi to the coast and getting a ferry over here to the Gili Islands, it took a very long time, roughly about 30 hours. So I was a bit concerned that it wasn't really worth all that effort. But as soon as I arrived, I instantly knew I'd made the right decision. I'd recently stayed at quite a few beach-style holidays. I don't know how to describe it, like going to the River del Maya in Mexico, also basically known near Cancun, and also staying at a few places in Thailand as well, not too long ago. And this is the best place I think I've ever been, actually. It's definitely the best island I've been at. I stayed at a few islands in Thailand, and Gili Meno, hands down, is the best. Although one thing I would say is that if you like a lively sort of party island, this is not the place to come. Luckily for me, I'm the exact opposite. Now I'm getting older, I dislike noise and people and anything really. So this island's absolutely perfect. It's absolutely stunning as well. The breakfast was included in the room rate and it's a la carte rather than a buffet, cooked by the same staff who check you in and clean the rooms and help you out throughout your day. Food itself is simple but really good quality, fresh fruit, smoothies, coffees and all the basics you'd want to start the day. So that is my time up here staying at Gili Meno Escape and here on one of the Gili Islands. I paid roughly £70 a night for my stay, paying a little bit extra to stay at one of the poolside sheds, I don't know what the word is, like the villa. And would I say it's worth it? Well, as I've probably said in the voiceover over the footage of the hotel, it's an absolutely fantastic hotel. Even though it's classed as 3-star, I would say, it probably sounds quite cliche and cheesy, the service was 5-star. I stayed in quite a few 5-star properties and I'd say it was pretty much on par to that. So yeah, I absolutely loved Gili Meno Escapes. I can't really speak to say that it's, you know, the best 3-star property on the island, as I haven't tried any other of the properties, but it was absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's it for this video. There's plenty more interesting places to come. I've got trips booked for the rest of Indonesia, you know, whilst I'm here. Also Korea, Japan and some other European destinations. So if that sounds appealing, then maybe check out some more of my videos. Thank you.